will have to say. And I bless her heart. I felt so bad that this woman, she said, now that Raila has joined Ruto, we will now be able to go to hospital, right? And I will present my SHA whatever, and now I can be treated. In the minds of many, really this is a panacea to the issues that we have faced. Ni mzuri sana wamekuja pamoja because sasa tutaona hii na hii. People believe that things will come about as a result of this pact. How do we then deal with that issue? Because people do want things to happen and happen properly.
Let's get it. Ruto and Raila have a constituency. They are followers. And their followers really believe in them. The only problem is that they are so let down so often that I don't know how long their optimism will last. It's true. Somebody must feel that actually this coming together will bring some difference. And that's okay. The problem is when they are betrayed, when that difference doesn't come, and which I can surely promise them that the difference will not come. Not in the next 2 years, because after this, everything that will be being done will be on 2027. It's so shameful that we can have 5 years, do nothing with it, and start asking for another 5 years to do nothing with it. So basically what you're saying is that are people's lives going to improve because Raila and Ruto are coming together? I doubt. Do they have any program? We've said those 10 points are red herrings. They have no program whatsoever, because what we know we need to do, we are not going to do it. We know that Mbadi is going to give us even higher taxes. We know that that is not going to be what we are looking for. In fact, we are preparing ourselves for the next problem with the finance bill. So we know. Unfortunately, there are those who are hopeful, but those of us who are still skeptical and can tell that there will be nothing that will come out of it except the usual political gymnastics.
Doc, what if this merger that the two gentlemen have actually gets to give the results that they say?
Well, Dennis, I would be very happy. You know, sometimes we don't wish that everything is bad, but we hope that 5% can come out of it that will help somebody, and that would be good. What I'm saying is that we are yet to see any evidence that this rapprochement, this coming together, is for the good of Kenyans. No. It's a political pact. It's about numbers. It's about 2027. And it has no serious economic agenda besides a legal agenda aimed at decimating, aimed at bastardizing the constitution.
You know, the thing that seems to have happened in this country, which we take for granted, are these handshakes. I say for granted because our neighbors have problems that are similar to us, but they don't quite handle them the way we do. And sometimes when we look at the handshakes, amidst the really terrible problems we face, we forget to understand that perhaps they may even have a benefit. The fact that problems can be solved by people agreeing. Now, the unfortunate thing is when they agree, we do not see the changes that people hope. But it averts something worse that could also happen. Now, now, are we to understand that when the narrative of averting a terrible outcome is spoken of, that is sufficient, and that is sufficient fodder for us to sit back and put up with every other thing, because after that, everything else that followed has nothing pleasant about it, or nothing pleasant to speak about. The fundamentals are not met. Fundamentals. People being able to go to hospital. We've had it in this country where you could. So we're not asking for something that hasn't happened. Children actually going to school and ensuring they get into it. It's happened before.
Yeah. People eating.
Being able to afford. Telling you that prices have gone down and you can't afford to buy it is not helping you.
Yeah.
Being able to afford to eat. A situation that we've never quite seen, where industries shutting down, people losing jobs, so that less and less people are probably in a position to even pay taxes or to even just live. Now, I'm asking the question, what is the price of peace? What is our price? That is where I'm going with my question.
And I want to respond by saying that agreements are meant to work. When you're given a vote by the people to go and govern, you're meant to go and govern. Now, I don't know where anywhere the people told this UDA government or this Kenya Kwanza government that if you reach the middle, look for Raila, make a pact with him so that you can create peace. If you are a parent, you are married, you are a husband, you have a wife, it is expected that you will govern your home and you will have peace in your home. So when you go and now have a handshake with your wife, it does not mean that now all of a sudden there is now a rapprochement and there's an aversion of what. It is expected that the government functions, government delivers on the programs. It has the mandate, it has the apparatus, it has the taxes to deliver for people. It doesn't require it to go and make an agreement, a pact with anybody to deliver it. So
Daktari.
it's an abdication.
Daktari,
Yes.
when KADU and KANU formed, what was the understanding?
And this is now where we need to come back to. It was an aberration. It was a subversion of governance. For example, when KANU was first elected and when Jomo Kenyatta was prime minister, his first interest was to abrogate that constitution so that he could be a president. And his next thing was to abolish the KADU so that he could be an imperial president. And this is our problem, that we sneak in our chieftaincy into governance as if you should be the last man standing when you are a president. Now, if you go that route, it is these bits of handshakes that took us down the road, made us change so many of the parts of the constitution, and led us to the fight for the second liberation, gave us this constitution, which is in many respects a tougher constitution and perhaps a more disliked constitution. If you asked any of these people, including Baba himself and of course Ruto, we know he opposed the constitution, but if you ask all these people, this constitution is too hard for them. Why? It makes life a little bit difficult for them to manipulate and for them to swing us around. So yes, this handshake thing does not necessarily go to the root of governance. It simply subverts.
Can we stick on the handshake just for a little bit? I'm going to bounce this off of a comment that Dave Luter has made here, because quite some robust activity going on our socials this morning. But the question is, in the last 4 administrations, of course 2 of them being held by the same gentleman, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, President Uhuru Kenyatta, that there have been handshakes. There was a handshake with Kibaki. There was a handshake in Uhuru 1, more or less. There was a handshake in Uhuru 2. Now we're seeing another handshake. And they were all essentially to quell a number of things, whether we want to look at them, most notorious being 2007, that was brokered by Kofi Annan. And then after that, and Benjamin Kappa. But then after that, we saw that it happened over and over again. And there were certain things happening in country at the time that the handshake, or the pact, as it were, was to be seen to then quell or to sort out and allow the country to move forward. The question is, in all 4 occurrences, or let's take 3 because this is the 4th one, in the 3 previous ones, did the pacts or did the handshakes essentially achieve what they were designed to or believed to in the beginning?
Let's look at 2007. The reason why there was necessity for a coalition agreement, thanks to the late Kofi Annan and others, was the perception, and perhaps correctly so, that the 2007 results had been rigged in favor of Mwai Kibaki. So the level of volatility was so high, and the necessity to have a middle ground was necessary. And perhaps the national dialogue that came out of that process allowed us to come to a point where we got the 2010 constitution. Yes, there's a result.
Yes.
And yes, there was a circumstance.
Okay.
Beyond that, after 2018, was there any other reason? Maybe what I want to say is that are our elections free and fair? Do we have interferences around elections that makes it impossible for anybody who then purports to win actually govern a country? If that's the problem, let's fix it. Let's go and tell ourselves that it's our stealing of elections that's our problem.
But that isn't the problem. What you've just described is a symptom. The elections that we speak of, that is in the limelight, and the one everybody thinks about is the national elections. The very problems we talk about with regard to the national elections, we see in party elections. The very problem we see in any other political machinations that we see, because the complaints are the same. So, we are a people who are given to fraudulent ways. So, all we do is practice it at every level until we get to the very highest level. So, who is the person who's going to cast the first stone when it comes to this? Because the political class, by their very existence, seem determined that everything that we are taught and know to be wrong, they spend 5 years of that electoral cycle convincing us that this wrong is actually right. That's what they seem to try to convince us. And if it isn't working, because they have the might, something within the constitution will be tinkered with to give it the sort of feel that it isn't too harmful to them. But we put up with it. I'm going back to what I asked earlier on. You see, the problem is clear. We are unwilling to understand that the very thing you've been saying since you came here, many of these things are not for our benefit or for our interest. We have refused to accept it, even when it is staring at you in the face. And so long as we refuse to accept it, then those who perpetrate these ills on our behalf will continue to do so.
And I want to agree with you, CT, particularly when you said that we do not have a culture of integrity around elections. Whether it's a cattle dip, whether it is a teachers' union, whether it is an MCA, whether it's a church, yes, whether maybe I've not heard that the mosques and the other imams have been put there, you know. But you see, the way we do our things, especially around even the elections of bishops and whatnot, it is. We have not talked about tribalism here. It's about tribalism, and it's also about a lack of integrity. So I agree with you. If we don't want elections stolen, we will not participate in taking bribes and in compromising. You know. So because we are that way, and that's why, for example, I've said, let Ruto run his term up to the end of 5 years. If we are serious, then the ballot will say we were serious. But if we are not serious, let's not even say he must go.
So, Dr. what I hear you say pretty much is throwing this ball back to the Mwananchi, in the sense that the powers that the individuals in office have today is because our vote put them there. It therefore behoves upon us to make the right choices, to interrogate our constitution, and most importantly, to not give power to the ills that bedevil us every electioneering year.
Absolutely. We have not said what some of the NADCO thing wants to. NADCO wants to constitutionalize the CDF fund. It wants to constitutionalize the Senate, something for senators. It wants to constitutionalize something for women representatives.
And MCs.
These are public resources that you want to give to people to walk around bribing you and telling you they have done it for you. These are public resources. Now, those kind of things will not help us. What we really need to do is to agree that if this country is going to develop, then we will pay taxes, and we will be expecting that our taxes are put to good use. But for now, as long as we want to be bribed to be to give our vote, as long as the church needs to be bribed 20 million and on top of it another 100 million in order for it to lend its support to political leaders, we are not about to get there.
When the church accepts to be bribed, you see, if you don't accept, you can't be bribed.
You can't be bribed. There's an acceptance that took place.
You can't be bribed.
There are very many thoughts, emotions at this point that are going on in the minds of people. It's 2025 and we're getting through Q1 already, and we're getting into, forget about 2026. Once it's done, we're full throttle into electioneering, and Kenyans are already asking themselves the questions. There's civic education that's going on in some places. There are people who are finding a voice. There are people who are wondering what this pact is about, if it's going to yield anything. What are we saying to Kenyans? People are saying, well, don't lament all the time, look for a solution. Although lamentation sometimes actually gives rise to something, you know. But what would be the message to Kenya today, where you're saying, sure, we can see there's so many things that are not going on, right? Yes, there's a pact or not. But what's one thing that we must hold fast So what would be your message to Kenyans today?
My message to Kenyans is that, yes, I know the book of Lamentations is there in the Bible, but so is the Song of Songs there, the Song of Solomon, and so is Revelation. There are a number of things we need to do. What are our eyes going to see? We cannot be lamenting without seeing what God is revealing to us. We have this pact now that should spark our interest to a point where if these people are only uniting because of 2027, let us also unite to say that as we've united, we will also unite and we'll show you how not to do things. The only thing here is, what is the alternative? And therefore, there must be other alternatives. And there are people who are saying they can offer alternatives. Whether they mean business or not, again, Kenyans are asking them, and do you have money? Yeah. How much money do you have to run a campaign? The day, and maybe this is part of our problem, City and Lo and Dennis, we have allowed rich people and illicit money to run campaigns. And so what do people do? They will corrupt as long as they want money for elections. They will print money, wash, as long as they have money for elections. They will engage in illicit trades and so on to get money for, so that when it comes to elections, the very fellows who should be behind bars are the ones running for elections and holding office. Now, who will keep the law? The law is already in the wrong hands. So we also need to agree that we cannot do things the same way and expect different results. So time has come for Kenyans to take responsibility into their hands. I can tell you that unless you become wiser and unless you see your interests, do not expect that I, or indeed CT here, will come and tell you that he means so well for you that you can go to sleep as he works for you. Forget it.
Not gonna happen.
I also have my interests. CT has his interests. What about you as a Kenyan, as a citizen? What are your interests? How are you going to protect those interests? How are you going to ensure that you get the people who can deliver on your interests?
Those are the questions to go away thinking about this Monday morning, and a good conversation for us to have started the day and the week indeed off with. Lawyer and political analyst Dr. Martin Olo has been our guest this hour. Thank you for gracing the hot seat with your presence this morning. Conversations continue after this, folks. Good morning. It is 8 o'clock.
The Situation Room, where hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights into the state of the nation live.
You can't choose to consistently be part of the criticism without being part of the solution.
Here, hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations converge.
You know, you can't tax people beyond a certain point. It becomes counterproductive.
With Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, truth seeker, and a firm believer in the power of the people.
If we look at cabinet and the way in which it is, constituted, these individuals have a duty to deliver development agenda for government.
C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times, and the master of African proverbs.
The sycophancy and the singing discordantly has to do with the reward element.
Energize your day by being part of the engaging conversations with a blend of trending news, local updates, authenticated research, and thought-provoking discussions. The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What are you hiding from me? You're putting on an act to hide the truth from me. Tell me, Akash. Why are you all lying? Where's Arjun? He isn't here. I know that Arjun hasn't been here at the house.
Mom, you were right. I found out why Akash refused to get married to me. It is all because he was never really serious about me in the first place.
What?
I found out that there is another girl in Akash's life other than me.
I am sorry, Gia. I have to pretend to be Arjun or else